Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1529A, and today's date is March 26, 2018, and the title of the episode is Petro Yuan Futures Launched, Economic System Shook, Control Narrative. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the corporate media and many alternative media channels are out there saying, whoa, Trump just signed a $1.3 trillion omnibus bill. He's betraying America. This is not what we wanted. A lot of the stuff in there is absolute garbage. It allows the government to spy on the people. But we need to look a little bit closer on what is happening here. Nothing is by coincidence. This is what Q normally says. It's all done for a specific reason. You might not see it right now. And you have to remember one thing that's very important about all of this is that this isn't your normal everyday politician where this individual was groomed to be a politician. This individual was put out there to do a specific task. This is an individual that knows how to create and work deals, creates fortunes, understands what happens when fortunes are lost, when you need to go bankrupt, knows how to basically maneuver around it, and knows how to play people. You need to keep all of this in mind, that everything is not the same anymore, and you need to look past. You need to basically open your mind, because your mind is like a parachute. If it's not open, it doesn't work. So when we start to look at these things, we need to look at everything in a different way, just like looking at North Korea, where everyone was talking about war, if we're talking about John Bolton today. And when we look at the economic situation and what he's trying to do here, not just Trump, but there's a lot of patriots behind this, what they're trying to do and what is being done right now, it is all done on purpose in a specific way to bring us out of a system that was created back in 1913, which was then modified in 1971, where the central bankers and the developing deep state got larger and bigger and more powerful and took over pretty much everything. Now, yes, Trump said he was going to veto this omnibus spending bill. Remember, it is a spending bill. This is not a budget. Don't get them confused. This is a spending bill. Obama, during his presidency, signed many of these. Why? Because you don't need Congress's approval to spend the money. This is why billions and billions and billions of it is completely gone. I mean, Obama signed a $1.8 trillion spending bill. What is happening right now is Trump is allowing Congress, all these individuals, to do what they do best. And that is to basically spend like crazy. How do you destroy a system? Can you come in there and say, listen, we're going to have to stop all these entitlement programs. Listen, we're going to have to cut all this out. You won't be able to spend any of this money. No, he can't say this to Congress. He needs to allow them to bury themselves. This is what is happening right now. Now, this spending bill was like 2,230 pages, and there's no way that any of them read this because they only had like 17 hours to pass it, and you'd have to read every single page. How would you do that in that specific time period? It'd be almost impossible to really understand and to grasp what was going on. I think Rand Paul read about 600 pages and stopped and said, this is complete garbage. That's exactly what it is. But what does it allow the president to do? Well, that's the whole point of this. It gives him control, power. It gives him $1.3 trillion. Now, he doesn't have to do anything with that. He doesn't have to do what Congress wants. The spending bill is not a budget. It's a package that is set up as spending, and Congress gives him suggestions on what this money should be used for, like the African Development Foundation, $30 million. The Corporation for National and Community Service, $1 billion. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, $445 million. That's PBS parent company. The Delta Regional Authority, $10 million. The Denali Commission, double budget now at $30 million. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, there's a lot in here. And he doesn't have to do any of this. He can do whatever he wants with the money, like maybe build a wall, something that they were trying to stop him from doing. It also allows him to go up against the deep state. He has control and power now of funds that he never had before. Think about this. This is the final stage. This is why he said this type of bill will never be signed again. There's a reason why he said this. It's because when this system is reset, this is not going to happen again. This is the old system. And he's using the old system to basically get what he needs, and he's using it to push his agenda to bring down the system. Now, what's very interesting about this spending bill, Congress, the Senate, House of Representatives, they gave themselves raises. I mean, if you look at the Omnibus Division 1 of the legislation, break down the total salaries of officers and employees, and basically they gave them all raises. They put out this spending bill as $1.3 trillion, and they all think they deserve a raise. Actually, we should be removing their funds. Now, everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Trump is doing the same thing that Obama did. Well, let's think about this for a second. Trump isn't taking a salary. He's already a billionaire. He doesn't need any type of funds. He doesn't have to siphon this off. There's no reason to do that. And he's not taking a salary. He's actually donating it to different agencies. He's using this to fight what is happening right now, and it gives him a lot of power. Now, let's talk about what the president can and can't do with this omnibus bill. There's a lot of discussion both ways, so let's examine how money gets allocated and spent in the U.S. government. Congress allocates money to be spent. The president spends the allocated money. Once Congress allocates money, their job is oversight of the money being spent. They don't spend the money and have no say how it gets spent as long as it's spent legally. That's their job to monitor with oversight. Once the president is given the money with instructions to spend it, he has a number of choices to make in spending it. There are some rules he has to follow, and some of the money is fungible, replaceable by another identical item, mutually interchangeable, and some isn't. However, there are some other factors that are in play here. One of them is that the president has declared a human rights emergency and has notified Congress that he's invoking the Balanced Budget and Emergency Deficit Control Act of 1985. This opens up new options. By making these two declarations, President Trump has just communicated that he has the authority to not spend any funds he doesn't deem necessary and will return them to the U.S. Treasury. So funds for like Planned Parenthood and many other things, he doesn't have to allocate them. Look what he's doing here already. You can see how much control he has. Also, these declarations make some funds fungible. For instance, if he determines that building a wall on the southern border is a defense against human trafficking, he can move funds from anywhere else in the Defense Department allocation and simply build the wall. It's that easy. Now, Congress is powerless to stop cash reallocations on an omnibus bill and cannot stop the Department of Defense from taking measures under a declared emergency. Now, despite their language in the omnibus bill about the border wall, it is trumped by the state of emergency that Trump declared. So in summary, this will go to the courts. Congress will sue the president over the border wall. But here's how it will play out. Congress and the president are co-equal branches with different functions. Congress allocates, the president spends. Guess what? He will win. The president has national security as his primary responsibility, and it's his job to use whatever funds and declarations he needs for that job. No court in this nation would ever rule against the president for exercising that authority. In the end, the Supreme Court will fully validate the president's constitutional authority, and the wall will be built. And anything else that he wants to do, he will be allowed to do this. Now remember, many of these government officials, they put this together not to help the American people. It was put together to help private groups, certain entities, and this was kind of like a payoff to them. And it's all being shut down and cut off by this Balanced Budget and Emergency Deficit Control Act of 1985 that he invoked. So this is giving him control right now, because this is the last stage of the economic implosion of the central banking system. Remember, the central banking system, their entire existence is to keep countries from going bankrupt. If you really look at what's going on here, I mean, look at Greece, for instance. They will never, ever allow Greece to declare bankruptcy and default, because then every other country would look at this and say, well, wait a minute. We're under the central bank rule. They're handling our economies, and this country just defaulted? No, they can't let that happen. So they always keep countries right at that space where they're almost ready to default, but they never will. But they will push countries to push austerity on the people. They will cut budgets, they will cut employees, they will cut everything except for the money going to the creditors. Here we are with this system where this is going to be the first instance where this system is going to be brought down, where it's going to expose the central bankers. That's where we're headed right now. Now, there are a lot of things in play at this point. And the IMF, they're getting nervous. The Fed is getting nervous. They realize what he's up to. Actually, Christine Lagarde was out there, and she has proposed a rainy day fund for building up assets in the good times and having those available during downturns. So this way, countries would be able to receive funding to help offset budget shortfalls. You know, if we enter some type of economic crisis. And this would help banks, it would help the Eurozone, it would help anyone that needs it. Because they realize what's approaching. They realize that the system is going to be brought down. And it's not going to be by the central banking system. It's going to be brought down by Trump and the Patriots. Those who are working to get rid of the central banks. And they realize they're going to try to fight against this. Because remember, you need to declare default. You need to say we can't pay any of this debt back. And they need to push that. And this is going to be a battle all the way up to the end. Now, the Petro Yuan futures was just released. And we can see right now that it is a huge success in the first, couple of hours here. And the oil futures, they were launched overnight in Shanghai with about 62,500 contracts traded in aggregate, meaning over 62 million barrels of oil change hands for a notional volume of around 27 billion yuan, over $4 billion. And this surged up, and then, of course, it evened out. It even bypassed the Brent crude in London, the benchmark there, and then it started to even out, which basically it's going to do. Now, the Petro Yuan is challenging the petrodollar. And again, as we know, this is going to push the petrodollar out. This is the plan right now. And we see right now, once China is able to push and basically push the dollar, basically push the petrodollar down, China, remember, is the world's leading consumer of oil. Beijing can then exert some real leverage over Saudi Arabia to pay for crude in yuan. I mean, this is something that's not going to take that much time. This is something that can happen in a very short period of time, where other countries say, something, we're going to use the Petro Yuan now instead of the petrodollar. That's how quickly they can do this. In 1971, when they were bringing the new system online, it didn't take another 20 years. Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Middle Eastern countries said, okay, we'll use the petrodollar. Not a big deal. And that's the only currency we'll use. And every country out there will have to use the dollar. It happened very quickly. Yes, there were a couple of months, maybe up to a year, where everything was a little mixed up and things like that, where people couldn't get fuel and there were lines and you had to go on odd, even days with your plate numbers and things like red and green flags and all that kind of stuff. But eventually it all evened out. And again, the central bankers, they were loaning the government like crazy, and we were creating currency like crazy. And this is why the value of the dollar decreased so rapidly. Interest rates went up. And that was the beginning of the new petrodollar system as we came off the gold standard. Here we are at the end of the system. Interest rates very, very low. Wages are declining. The dollar is worth absolutely nothing. It's falling in value. And there's a new system that is being implemented right now. And with the petrodollar's downfall, it most likely will lift gold. And we'll see gold start to really move up. And that will move up very, very quickly. And we can see right now it's been moving up. And when everything is said and done, the markets will be destroyed. I'm talking about the stock market. The system that the central bankers that have been controlling the world for such a long time will be destroyed. This is where we're headed right now. And we can see at this point, the central bankers, well, they're pushing their agenda. They're raising the interest rates. They're trying to keep their system, control the narrative. Trump and the Patriots are doing the same exact thing. And you can see we're heading towards the same point where the system's coming down. Now, one's going to be a soft transition. One's going to be a little bit rougher. That's the central banker if they win out. And this is what we've been watching. But no matter what, you need to be ready and prepared because we're going to go through a period of rough time. The time that we need to prepare for is going to differ between who brings down the economy. So no matter what, get prepared, get ready, because we're getting closer and closer. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.